I'd like to talk for a few moments about some of the comments, or one of the comments that has been put on my site. Broken Hill 56 says, and this is in response to a to a post I made about the Cardinal, the the Western Patriarch of Jerusalem, who offers himself to Hamas in place of Israeli hostages. Now, Broken Hill says, Aldo Moro was a brave, brave man, but the problem is the numbers game, isn't it? By the Italian Catholic bishop. Great moral response, but no chance of success. Bibi has given up on the plight of the hostages for the first time in Israeli history. Now, I don't think that's the case, and there's a few reasons for that. First of all, in fact, I'm going to stick exclusively to religious concepts, because I think that's really the context of this post. So the first thing is that in the Bible, in the book of Numbers, chapter 21, verse 21, it says that the Canaanite, the king of Arad, was fighting against Israel and took prisoners. Now, the rabbis interpret that. They say that the result of taking prisoners, the result of taking hostages, is to spark war. Rashi talks about this, and in the Shmuel chapter 1 verse 30, there are other people who also talk about this, that the action of taking a hostage triggers war. And I think that is something that will have been drilled into Netanyahu. As for the idea that Hamas took hostages with the intention of extracting money from Israel, that's also a very interesting subject, and that's also debated among the rabbis in the literature. In fact, the idea is that one should negotiate for the release of hostages, but never beyond their value, and never in such a way that it gives encouragement to hostage takers. And there's a really so for example, the story of Julius Caesar, who was taken hostage by the pirates, and they asked for a certain amount of money. He said, "Well, I'm worth far more than that." That wouldn't be the rabbinical approach, and that's based on the story of Rabbi Meir of Rothenburg, who was taken hostage in 1286 by Rudolf I, the Emperor Rudolf I, and he had raised a Jewish tax, and Rabbi Meir and his congregation left Germany over the mountains, a little bit like Maria von Trapp. And on the way, he was identified and taken into captivity. And people raised an astonishing amount of silver coinage for his release. And then he debated, and he reasoned that he should not be allowed to go free, on the grounds that if he was to be freed for that amount of money, that would set an example for other greedy emperors to follow. And so he sat in prison for a further 7 years until his death. Now, I think that Rabbi Meir was famous for interpreting dreams. So, like Joseph, he had a lot of time in prison after his capture to dream and, I suppose, interpret his dreams. But it's a salutary story. Yes, It is drilled into Israel through the religious literature that hostages will be rescued, but no, not at any price. And I think that's something that one has to bear in mind in this particular situation. I don't think there is any question that I don't think there's any possibility that Netanyahu has given up, and I certainly don't think the Israeli people have given up on the hostages. I think they are at the front of their mind, and I think they should be at the front of our mind in the same way as we should keep at the front of our mind the suffering of the Palestinian civilians. I think that should be at the front of everybody's mind. We don't. We want to do everything we possibly can to avoid the suffering of others.